So
oh, right, okay. I don't know how it works. Alid normally does it. So
yeah. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Stephen Somerville Irish Rugby. Back again with the third and final test of the Lions when they take on the Springboks this Saturday at 5 p.m. The big crunch game. And I've got two guests along with me today. Well, the first one, I want to say it's a massive pleasure to welcome on to the channel for the first time. Former Lions winner, Dafydd James, and the former Lion and Welsh player. First, must say, David, thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to join the stream ahead of this massive game on Saturday.
no, it's a pleasure. Anything I could do to help out and enjoying some of your streams. So got the good work and let's put the world right with the rugby side of things.
Oh yes, definitely. And I want to invite also onto the stream a guy I saw. He invites me onto his channel a lot through Football Wise, through Liverpool Talk. I'd like to welcome Club Talk TV onto the channel for the first time. How are you doing, this?
Yeah, pleasure to obviously come on for the first time. But yeah, thank you for that, Stephen. And yeah, pleasure to be sharing the stream with Dad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's son, father, and son. It's pretty strange. It must be very strange for you all, I must say, and both and for you as well, David.
Yeah. Well, I'm so immensely proud. I've got him into Liverpool Football Club, supporting them guys. So I haven't really just followed it himself, but I'm now a big supporter of football. I've always followed Liverpool, but it's great to be on your show and help both.
But that's all. It's all good, no. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're here to talk about the big game on Saturday, and I'm sure the nerves on this week are. That's why I wanted to put up this first question, for you, David, because I must say you've been through it before, and I'm sure you were in this position on this week, because I know a lot of these players are going through it right now. I'm sure on this week in this position back in 2001. You had a few warm-up games in the Australia game in 2001. You had a few warm-up games, and then you got to the big test with the Aussies. You went and beat them in the first test, but then unfortunately you lost to them in the second test. And I would like to know, could you tell me first, please, what was that experience like, and how did you really gel well together with the teammates you had that you hadn't really played before, and did you make some great friendships on that tour? And I'm sure on this week in 2001, leading up to the final test, it must have been nails down hard enough to sort of try and get the job done.
Yeah, look, it was a dream come true, wasn't it? And it's always difficult when you merge four teams together when they've been knocking 7 bells out of each other in Six Nations campaigns for a number of years and throughout the season. So to come together, you've got to gel pretty quick. You have to get the dynamics of the squad right. So it's all about getting the right players who fit in with the mold and the ethos of the team. So it is important that you come together. We had several games. We didn't have a touring game against Japan or Barbarians or whatever they do at this moment in time. However, we flew straight to Perth. I think we had a week together prior to going, and then we flew to Perth and worked our way east across the country until we come to the test arena. And it's a great experience. And, unfortunately for these Lions, the next generation or the new generation of Lions, they're not getting the full experience of it, which is with the crowd, the hype, the atmosphere, and to go and savor some of the best places in the world. And, South Africa has a lot to offer. And unfortunately, due to COVID, they've not been able to, go out and switch off a little bit.
I mean, that's funny enough. I thought you brought up the point. I was going to actually ask that question next. Because I've seen a few pundits. I think on the lines of maybe when I've looked at the likes of Brown Driscoll, they'll come out maybe a few weeks ago, not before the actual test started. He was saying on the lines of never before the Lions were going to play the Sharks again in the second test. That the situation in South Africa was at its highest point in terms of what the country was at. I think there was at some point there was this talk of the way the Lions series really had been cancelled, and maybe bankruptcy could have been had it if that would have happened. But we're here now. But the thing is, this South African tour has been sort of weird in a way, because there's no crowds, there's no Lions tourist fans to come over to South Africa and actually cheer them on, as well as the Springboks fans. I mean, David, it must be so strange for them players right now, especially now, probably in a hotel room, trying to figure out their game plan for Saturday, and not having their actual tour experience that you would have had maybe in Australia or maybe the likes of New Zealand or South Africa that the players would have had done in the past. It must be so hard for them right now at this point in time, mustn't it?
Yeah, it is 15 men against 15 men, or 23 against 23, as Warren Gatland likes to use his full complement. But it's it's different. It's a different experience. It's like, Ali will probably relate to this with the football. It doesn't get that buzz. You don't get the hype, the expectation. I don't know what it feels looking from an outside perspective. What would you say, Ali? Without the crowds, does it get the hype? I don't feel it does.
No, it definitely affects the speed of play. You can definitely see the difference when there's fans in, as Liverpool fans. When we watched the Crystal Palace game with Stephen, there was a massive difference in the speed of play. Mane looked better, and a lot of different players just come to life. So obviously the fans play a massive part in it. And it's a big loss for both teams on Saturday. But yeah, I suppose it's on a fair playing field now that there's no fans at both teams. So that'll be detrimental to how the game unfolds, won't it?
Yeah, when you're talking about the crowds and that, and from a playing context, I've been privileged to play in front of 80,000, 100,000 players, people, and different things, and it does lift you. It does give you that extra edge, that adrenaline, and we've seen it with football. We see it now, the rugby on the big stage. You can hear the players shouting and screaming at each other on the field. It's not heard of. Normally, when you're into the environment, the cauldron, so to speak, or the Colosseum, then you don't hear each other, really. It's more autonomous. You've worked it meticulously, you've gone through it. So it is difficult. And what these players will be feeling is, be in the back of their minds. They probably won't say that they're ready to come home. They've been in isolation, in a bubble for 6-7 weeks, is it? Whatever it is.
It's very unique.
And last game, they had a bit of a battering. They've got to put all hands to the deck this week. They haven't been able to have the luxury to go and visit loads of tourist attractions, or not that we've seen anyway, to switch off a little bit. It's been rugby. And it's difficult. So they're probably taking a foot off the gas, so to speak, with the training sort of aspect. They've been doing the video analysis, I'm sure. A little bit of conditioning, very minimal, because they're on vapors now. It's the end of the season. They're looking forward to the summer break. So these guys will be nervous. They'll be anxious. They'll be looking to try and put it right, because Warren Gatland's laid the law down really with six changes, which says to me a little bit of panic stations, really. All hands to the pump. You can't change the game plan within 6 days, because a 6-day turnaround, essentially. So it's difficult. It's going to be the similar sort of thing, but Warren Gatland wants to speed the game up, and the likes of Josh Adams coming in and Liam Williams to diffuse the high ball, which we weren't very good at last week. Let's be fair.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whenever I look at Warren Gatland over these past tours, I think he was the assistant to Ian McClellan in 2009 on the tour, but then he took over as the head coach from 2014. So he's been in the job now for a long time in the Lions, and he knows them pretty well. He's done a pretty good job so far in getting a draw in New Zealand and then getting the win in Australia. Now, when it comes to South Africa, when I'm looking at his tactics, when the squad announcement was had, I don't think a lot of us on YouTube or on the community we were picking sort of squads that were picking squads on the basis of informed from the Six Nations, because I know if I had a James Ryan there, or if I had someone different in there, that was my squad. But on the day, I think it was a bit of a surprising to us when the squad was announced. I think Warren Gatland was picking players that could do the job that taking down the Springboks, because I don't think Warren Gatland would pick the players he would want to actually go at the Springboks. For that, in your perspective, David, when you looked at this when the squad was announced, did you feel like it was the right one, and did you feel like there were certain players could have had the opportunity of going in into that tour, or did you feel like was there any sort of players that were left out should have got in your opinion?
Well, it's difficult, because Warren Gatland, like him or loathe him, he does what he's done for the last 8-10 years. He's done exactly the same with Wales. He's got his team in mind before he's even gone to the selection meeting, to be quite honest with you. We've seen it time and time again. He's got his tried and tested, his faithful, and he sticks with them, providing they don't do something drastically wrong. So, there was a couple of surprises there, and a couple of omissions, which, I think he probably could have put in like a utility back like Henry Slade. I thought he possibly would have put his hand up. I thought Johnny may have snuck in there, possibly, but I'm one or two of the other Irish boys as well. But Yeah, look, he believes that was the right dynamics for the squad to go out there and win the Test series. He could be proved wrong in the next 80 minutes or so on Saturday. But look, you live and die by the sword. This is his legacy. I don't believe he has a coaching position post Lions. I think this is his swan song, and he's going to try and do everything he can to finish on a high. If he doesn't, then it goes down as another tour that's got to wait.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, like, I want to come to you, Al, on this because I know you're into football a lot, but in terms of rugby wise, if you've looked at the tour and you've seen it a wee bit, I'm sure right now these players going into this final test must be like trying to focus so hard because I'm sure after that last test they took a battering from the previous first test. I mean, for you, Alan, how did I think you said to me not long ago that you wouldn't feel confidence of the Lions winning on Saturday in terms of like the physicality of the Springboks. Like, for your opinion, do you see it happening? And for you, how did the Lions correct it?
I think the Lions still have a chance to win on Saturday. I think the Springboks really turned it on last weekend. They really turned the gears up towards the end. And there's always that lingering doubt that maybe the Lions have had too many warm-up games, whereas the Springboks are seeming to peak at this point in the tournament, at this point in the series, whereas the Lions showed on Saturday that they could be tailing off. But I think, like Dad said, obviously he hit the nail on the head with the Warren Gatland stuff. Obviously, it's his last game. He'll want to finish on a high because this will probably be his last game in management. So I still think I said at the start of the series, I said whoever wins the first game will win the series. And I think that with the Lions winning the first game, I fancy them to go on and win the second game. But obviously the Springboks got the second game, and they've got their tails up at the minute, and it looks like they're smelling blood. So I'm still going to back the Lions. I can still see them edging over the Springboks on Saturday, but I think it'll be very difficult. And I think the referee played a massive part in the game last week. I felt he could have let the game flow a lot more. But look, I think the Lions have a decent shot.
I will answer that. Alan, if you've heard of Rassie's points from last week, which were so controversial in my opinion. Again, I know we were debating if the ref would have had anything to do with that on Saturday, but I think at the end of the day, you can't really focus much on what the coaches say, before a game, because it's all what the players do on the day. I mean, I won't get on that too much, but I want to come back to you, David, on the point of we're in a situation now where the Lions are going to go into another match, one more game, and it's all going to come down to this one match, if win or bust, in my opinion. And because for you, David, you were in this situation back in 2001 where all Australia won a game and the Lions won a game, and then it all led up to the final test. But unfortunately for you, it didn't go end up your way, and it went up the Aussies' way. But for you, what was that experience like on that final match, on that match day week leading up to that game? Because I'm sure it must have been full focused on the job, full hand. Or did you feel like there were certain things in that match that could have got right for the Lions to win that series, or did you feel like the Aussies were better on the day?
Well, they were clearly better on the day because they won it. But in the second test in particular, it was controversial. Really, there was a couple of incidents which would have been red cards without a shadow of doubt this day and age, and probably should have been back then. It was a bit more brutal back in the day. But with Richard Hill getting taken off the ball by Gray and got concussed, and it changed the whole dynamic of the turnover ball really around the breakdown. So that was difficult, and there was a turning point when Johnny Wilkinson threw an interception pass, and possibly he should have kicked the ball. And I've spoken to my good mates, you asked who were good mates with him, still very friendly with him, and he still lives that moment really, as we all do, set different things. So. Look, he, possibly should have kicked. It was an interception, and it changed the whole flow of the game. But I come back to the point which I said about, it's all about player management and recuperation. Really, now in this last week of the tour, you can't do too much in 6 days. You can't change the whole style of play, especially with the backbone of the team, the 8, 9, 10, 12. Essentially, he's made 1 or 2 changes, but he's changed the scrum halves every game, essentially. The outside half's the same, so you're going to dictate the same. So it's going to be the same style of play. So when it comes to the last game in the tour I was on in 2001, we were on vapors. We were at the end of the season looking forward to jumping on a plane. Well, having a couple of drinks first, probably, but jumping on a plane and getting home. And these guys are going to be no different. They're going to try and be professional as they can be. They got everything at their disposal. However, they can't switch off from that environment where you can get out, go for a cup of coffee with your mates, go off in a little group and go up Table Mountain or whatever they're going to do, or shark diving, whatever it may be. So, look, there was turning points. And come the last game, we could have still won the series, really. And when you look at it, and I hope it doesn't sound egotistical, but the squad that we assembled, or was assembled, not we, was assembled, it was an exceptional squad, with the likes of Brian O'Driscoll, Ron O'Gara, Rob Howley, dare I say it, and Scott Cornell and co, and all the English guys, the majority who went on to win the World Cup in 2003. So, look, it was a formidable squad, and we should have taken the series. However, we didn't. And, it goes down in history as one that got away, and unfortunate. It is what it is. But it's about, doing the little things right, the small margins, like the turning point in the game last week. Obviously the game was slowed down. South Africa, when you go into South Africa, like in football, in rugby, you do a lot of video analysis whereby you're monitoring the team. And South Africa are a set piece side. There's no doubt about it. They like to bully you. They slow it down. The ball in play is a lot slower or a lot less than most normal other teams, like New Zealand. If you measure against Australia and New Zealand, and it's more enjoyable to watch, isn't it, Ali, when you watch Australia?
Yeah, exactly.
But South Africa will grind you down. It's a physical confrontation. So you've got to get the set piece right. And they changed it last week when they brought Jaeger on in the back row. A second row, I think they put him on at 6. They steadied their line-out out, which was creaking. And all of a sudden, they took a stranglehold on the Lions and come away with 2 tries. And they just drained the Lions.
Yeah, totally. I mean, watching that second test, now the first test for me, I thought in the first half we were pretty poor, but I thought that with the way Gallagher, made his changes in the second half, we ended up winning the game. I thought that there were a big difference for me. Mako Vunipola for me, people were writing him off before the tour because I thought I think he was fair choice. But fair play to Mako, he has stepped up. Certain players have stepped up here. Like Mario Toje has come back. Cordy Laws, not having enough international players come back into the fold. He's had a great tour so far. I mean, but when it came to the second test, I think the first half was a sort of a rollover. Well, it wasn't. To be honest, it was one of the worst rugby games I ever watched because I was watching it with my uncle and with my parents. I had never seen such a dire rugby game in my life in terms of a Lions perspective, what we were seeing, because I just thought that there were just too many kicks in that game, and I don't think that was what it was all about. I think every time the Springboks would have kicked, it felt like it was going to be a knock on or something, and we would have given it back to the Springboks for another penalty because they were just sticking to the game plan, and the Springboks in the second half were just. It could have been over 30 points in my opinion the way I was going, but I mean, I don't know you, David, but I mean, how did I'm sure the Lions must have changed in terms of Razzie's perspective to sort of go at them in the second half like massively, because I don't think the Lions had a score in that second half. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't. Well, they didn't get a try today, the Lions, last week. But the dynamics, it swung because Warren Gatland likes to play the media game, doesn't he? Really, and he plays that ideology and mind games. And if that works, that works. Razzie's gone rightly or wrongly. He probably should have gone through a different channel. It should have been someone else probably saying it. However, he hasn't broken any rules according to IRB. But they're still on about sanctioning. But it is what it is. But so. Both, you could have said in the first test that Watson was lucky not to get a yellow card, if not a red card, and it was only a penalty. When he, this day and age, you can't bring the legs over the horizontal, otherwise you're risking a yellow or red. And he got away with it with a penalty. And I said on other media channel when I was doing an interview prior to the trip, prior to the test series starting, let's hope that the tour doesn't come down to video TMOs and a controversial yellow or red card, which looks as though it's inevitable with the yellow cards and all that, and it changes the whole dynamics of the game. South Africa played perfectly for what they wanted to do last week. I got to be honest, the test series so far has been dire and it's been drab. It hasn't really, it was a great second.
I agree.
When you look at Ali, obviously my son and my other son Griffith, who were watching it, not really interested in it because it's not that speed of play. And be totally honest, Aled, the interest
No,
is,
I agree.
and people want to see a bit of free flowing rugby. They want to see a couple of tries. They want to see a little bit of enterprise, and hopefully, the likes of Liam Williams coming back on, Finn Russell, who's a bit of a maverick. He's majestic on times. He'll probably make an appearance. He can either be brilliant or he can be shocking. Let's be quite honest with you. He's chalk or cheese. But
yeah, definitely.
I think we're craving out, dare I say it, for like a Brian O'Driscoll in the team. There's no creative sort of play in the midfield at the moment.
And I was going to actually get onto that because the team was announced yesterday, and like you were saying at the start of the video, there's a lot of surprises in here from the previous two starting lines. I mean, I'm going to go for it. I mean, Gwyn Jones, the Welsh prop, has come in for the first time. Hasn't really had a tour game yet with the actual Springboks. Then you've got Ken Owens come in with Ty Furlong, keeps his place. Mario Toja, Alman Jones keep their places. Corny Laws retains his place with Tom Curry and Jack Conan again. In the back line, we've got Ali Price comes in with Dan Bigger keeping his place. Duane van der Merwe, Bundy Aki, Robbie Henshaw, Josh Adams, and Liam Williams. With the bench with Glenn Karen Dickey, Marco Vinapola, Cal Sinclair, Ty Byrne, Sam Simmons. No, sorry, not Ty Byrne, Adam Byrne, Conor Murray, Finn Russell, and Elliot Daly. Now, it's all. I think it's good making those sort of changes. I do think there were certain players that were sort of not living up to the marks of what the tour should be. I think maybe given Mako coming off the bench could be a bit of a boost as well, like when Joe's coming in. But see, the thing is with me, what I struggle with when I look at that is the certain. I know Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw are sort of used to each other for the Irish setup because they play at 12 and 13 together. But this has been a sort of rotation between Robbie Henshaw, Chris Harris, and Elliot Daly. Now, I don't think the centers have been have really been consistent. In my opinion, I think it's if you want a bit of consistency, you have to show in the Lions turn in those partnerships. Like Duane van der Merwe keeps his place again. Josh Adams, Stuart Hogsman drops for the first time. David, do you think Gatland's going for an approach where we can sort of go at them more this time with these changes, or do you think it's sort of a way that Gatland's sort of knowing that he doesn't have much to do with them certain players, that he has to put on these players that could do the job? Unfortunately, that might go the way. But for you, looking at it from a Welsh perspective, and then maybe look at like Josh Adams coming in, and that's fair. Like Josh Adams was the top try scorer in them warm-up games, remember, and he hasn't really had a game to show himself in these actual tests. So for you, Josh Adams coming in, do you think that's a bit of a boost in the actual team in terms of trying to get a try over the line?
Well, he set his stall out. I think, we touched upon it a little bit earlier, with the speed of the game, it's been quite dire and it's been a stranglehold and all that. And Warren Gatland's come out and obviously said he wants to speed the tempo of the game up. He doesn't want a 60-minute half because of the video refereeing and, but there's a little bit of gamemanship going on by both teams, with trying to get yellow cards and all that. And, I hope that gets abolished from the game, to be quite honest with you, because it will spoil rugby as we know it. It'll go, dare I say it, Ali, a bit like football with the diving round, But, and that's not what the game is about. But, I don't condone any sort of malicious play or stuff. But, when you bring in Bundy Aki to play with Henshaw, he's tried to get partnerships together now. But is this too little, too late? He's rotated the centres partnerships all over the place. Daly, in my opinion, has been lucky to get on the tour. But he's on the tour. I think he was brought in personally. This is my take on it. He's a good player, but I don't think he's been on form personally.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think he's possibly there for a long-range goal kicker because there isn't a long-range goal kicker. I don't believe in the team. So, and I'm not knocking him for a player because, it's tough and congratulations for getting in and all that sort of stuff. But I think he's quite lucky in that regard. I think Duane, van der Merwe on the wing, Duane is lucky to keep his place. I thought Watson probably should have kept his place and, him move. But is that Gatland setting his stall out? He needs another battering ram to take it up off 10 or 12. Another option really with setting targets. But he's made wholesome changes. 6 changes. The front 5 he's made 2. Scrum was okay for a certain period of time and then it creaked towards the latter part of the game, and then the lineup was okay, and so he's keeping faith. I thought Curry was on the edge. Really, and I suppose all good open sides are on the edge of getting yellow cards or penalties, and I thought he was on the edge a couple of times. really have possibly given away more penalties or getting the card. But he's a good player, and that's it. But hopefully we can see a little bit more tempo in the game, because I think if you can get South Africa on the back foot, that's why he's gone for Ali Price, is it, the scrum half, the Scottish lad. He's gone for him to speed the ball up, to try and get it away from the breakdown, to try and get the likes of Josh Adams in there. And that's probably why he's gone for the Irish partnership in the midfield, because they're coherent and they gel together quite nicely, obviously, for Ireland, and he's hoping that it works for the Lions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I'm looking at it now, I think there's no option that happened, Yaki and Robbie Henshaw on that Bayern test, because I don't think there's much more of a partnership than them, if I'm being honest with you. And I wanted to also point out as well, because I'm a bit surprised here in terms of Duran van der Merwe keeping his place, if I'm being honest with you, because yes, we won the first test with him in the team, but I don't think he's covering himself in glory in these tests, because if you think about it, he nearly got away. I think he got sin-binned in the second tester, and I think he was getting a bit, he wasn't really living up to the expectations of what the winners should be doing on these tests. Like, now I know he might improve that. Hopefully, improve on. He might improve that on Saturday. But if we would have had maybe like Lewis Rees-Salmons, now he was tipped to be the winner. I think in many of our eyes to be the starting winner. But no, he hasn't. He's only been picked for the warm-up games now. Do you think it's harsh to leave Lewis Rees-Salmons out? David, from your perspective, if he's scoring all these tries for fun for Wales, then why not? And against a good opposition like France, and all this, England, all this kind of stuff. Do you think it's really harsh for him to be left out in this tour? We're going to need this win on Saturday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, his pros and cons really. He could be a little bit nervous in that environment. He seems to cope with it quite well, really. I think the shock was the Welsh lad has just come in on the wing. The name evades me.
Josh Adams.
Josh Adams. Sorry, I couldn't think for like. Sorry, but Josh Adams coming in. He's had 8 tries, arguably against relatively weak opposition. Let's be honest, I'm playing the Sharks twice. Is it? That's questionable. However, you've got to play what's in front of you, and he's done everything that's been asked of him. He even shifted to fullback. So, I'm delighted for him to get the start, and he deserved it. He does deserve it, and it's all about putting players on form. So, you're right with Dwayne van der Merwe. He didn't come into the game last week. He looked really shaky in the high ball. Well, all the back three did, in fairness, and he's a big guy, so I wouldn't be surprised if South Africa play behind him and turn him a little bit. He looks very aggressive in his approach, which is fine, and he can get ruffled quite easily by the look of it. So they'll play on him. Without a shadow of a doubt. They won't be kicking straight down Liam Williams' throat. That's a fact, because he'll cope with it quite well. So, yeah, one of Gatland's picked it. We've got to all get behind them, and say, right, it's shit or bust, really, isn't it? Really, so away to go with it. They've got to get in there.
Definitely, it is all or bust, because I think at this point in stage, like the players. I think when you've looked at previous Lions DVDs and you see the big test, big top warm ups coming up to the final test, they're really encouraging, especially from Warren Gallen's perspective, because I'm pretty sure right now that what they're going through is they'll be for this test no matter what. Definitely under different circumstances, I must say, under this pandemic, but I'm pretty sure that when it comes to match day, they'll be fully focused on the job. And I think Alwyn Jones said it yesterday in the press conference that they're going to come out as a different beast, and I'm sure that Alwyn Jones is going to lead these Lions out, to hopefully to victory against the Springboks, because I don't know when the last time we went to a tour in South Africa and won there, so I'm just hoping if we can actually go on and win the tests. So, but I just want on this last question, I just want to point out before we go here, it's all about this test on Saturday. How do you see this game go? I'll start with you, David. How do you see this game going, and how do the Lions sort of improve on from what happened last week, and how do they go at them this time, much in both the halves this time, and not just play mixed halves in terms of performance levels, going into both of them? How do you see it going?
Well, Aled, how would you like to see it go? How would you like to see it go?
I'd like to think that the Lions would. I'd like to think the Lions would have a new lease of energy and try and improve after last week's performance. But I do feel like the Springboks are smelling blood, like I alluded to before. So I'm really not sure how it's going to go. to be honest. I really hope that the Lions win, but I'm not too sure. Head and heart are saying two different things.
But to be there is what you'd like to see, probably, Ali. It is you and your brother, and how I'd like you to get into rugby a little bit more. Is to see a little bit more play, really, a little more creativity.
Yeah, creativity. Someone that can just open the game up with one pass. Just come in on a different line, just open the game up. That's all we're crying out for. Isn't it?
And as I've always told you, it's all about changing angles. It's coming in on different lines and beating a very regimented defence. So look, the Lions, how can they win? Well, they've got to get the set piece right. They've done well in the line-out initially last week. The scrum creeped towards the end. So was that fatigue or was that a change in personnel? Because come 56 minutes, Warren Gatland changes the whole front row, doesn't he? Really, it's very premeditated, and sometimes it works. Sometimes, in my eyes, I think you should bring players off only when they're really fatigued. I don't think they're all a nice GPS thing, really. Rightly or wrongly, I don't particularly agree with it. If someone's doing well, just keep them on. But I think the best way to do for the Lions is to speed the tempo of the game up. Warren Gatland's mentioned about it. We need quick ruck ball. We need Courtney Laws, and we need a J doing the steals with Curry. Alan Wynne-Jones, he's there for his leadership skills. He needs to put the points on the board when they're there. He needs to play in the correct field positions. Play on Colby. He's small. Put the high ball up. And really, he does look susceptible to dropping the ball. LaRue in the back isn't really great under the high ball as well. We're too regimented in what we're doing. The crash, bang, wallop. Beat them in the set piece, or hold your own in the set piece and get the parity there. That's the key, because it is a difficult ask trying to dominate the South Africans. But if you can get the upper edge on them once or twice, then you've got to make it count. You've got to have a little bit of creativity in there. You need to free your pace men out the wide. Van der Merwe's a quick lad. He needs pace. He needs 10, 15 meters running at someone, and he's going to cause a lot of problems. He's a big, powerful lad. And then you've got Josh Adams then, who's in try-scoring vein, and get the ball wide. But it's all about the speed of the breakdown. If South Africa do what they did last week and slow it down, it'll be 15 points to South Africa.
Yeah, and I really don't. I hope we don't see that again, because it would show what South Africa's world class is, and compared to ours, because it would go. I think if we don't end up winning this test, it'll go down as one of not the most memorable tests that we would have had, but it's all well getting the first win, but it's all about what you do in the tours. Because if you remember us going to the All Blacks in 2017, we beat them in the second test, and it all came down to the wire in that final test. It was end-to-end stuff. It was probably one of the most intense tours I ever watched in terms of rugby wise, because that New Zealand tour was from end to end, from start to finish, it wasn't like stoppable. There wasn't per games, there wasn't like per outstanding performances for individuals. They're all really good. What I want to see in this final test is an improvement overall, because if you want to make this tour like improve more, because I know under the pandemic it's been difficult, but what I want to see is a bit of an invitation for both teams. I want to see a good high scoring game. I want to see every single player play well to their standards, and I hope to hopefully go on and win this tour, whether it's South Africa or whether it's the Lions. I want to see a performance out of everyone, because I think this tour has been definitely different, and it hasn't really lived up to the expectations to a lot of fans, if you get what I mean. Like from a Lions perspective, I hope that we don't do the same game plan what we did in the last game. So I don't think we can afford it. Like, especially them kicking. I hope the kicks don't go wrong again, because every time we would have kicked a ball, it would have been either knocked on by us, and the penalties would have been given away to us. So if we can prove on that standpoint, I think we could come out again and show why the Lions hopefully can get the win on Saturday. So hopefully we get the W and win the tour. So I must say, David, thanks, Dafydd James, very much for taking your time out of there to do this. With me on the channel, with also your son as well, because it's it's definitely it's definitely known to some of that. It's good to see that when we're doing this ahead of a big test on Saturday, and I'm pretty sure the nerves are not they're not really. I think the nerves they'll be pretty all right now, but when it comes to game day, I'm sure the nerves are going to be through them players. Do you think the nerves will get to the players, or do you think they'll be fully focused on the job on Saturday, on the day?
I think there'll be a couple of players who'll be feeling it a little bit on edge. The pressure. It could be the last ever game for the Lions for one or two of them, without naming any names. And let's hope Elliot Daly comes on and puts a long range one over, because it's given him the kiss of death. I'm like, but no, I think
it's just a shame we didn't get the W. If you would have, if Elliot Daly was picking that long range goal and for us to win the game in New Zealand, that would go down in history. It's just a shame that it wasn't the win. But if we can get something like that happen, then that'd be great for all of us.
I think it'll. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be right down to the wire. But it could go one or two ways. I think either the Lions come away with a big win, and it all works marvelously, and we're all singing and dancing and having a couple of Guinnesses, or it goes down and South Africa take a stranglehold and kill the game off like they did last week. And let's hope from a player's perspective and Lions supporter and for public, because I want to try and engage, get more kids involved in the game, and we want to see a good spectacle on the telly. My boys have gone towards football, but they will probably play rugby. But you want to see, if you want to encourage people to watch the game and enjoy the game, then I think we need to see tries. We need to see a bit more expansive, and we've got to stop all this TMO sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully no more comments from Razzie to wind us up. Like, seriously, like them comments last week were controversial, so controversial. Anyway, thanks David for taking the time out of your day to join the channel. This big test on Saturday. Hopefully I'll speak to you again, and big up to you,
sure,
Alan, as well. Big up to you,
no
Alan,
problem at all.
TV. What we're doing on the Liverpool forums as well. Let's just hope we got more preseason games, but hopefully Liverpool will be up to the start of the season. In your opinion, yeah.
Yeah, hang on, Stephen. I got a question to ask you. What's your score prediction
for the score predictions? I can see this being really tight. If I'm being honest with you, I can see this being. I'm gonna go 25-22 to the Lions. It's gonna go right to the wire again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's gonna probably end up hopefully being like the second test back in 2009. But let's hope. I'm gonna go 25-29. No, 25-22 to the Lions. What's your score prediction, Alad?
I think there'll be a high scoring game, because like you said, and like Dad said as well, it's going to be the last game of the season. They're going to want to leave everything out there on the pitch, because some players will know that that's probably their last opportunity to even put on a Lion shirt. So I reckon, obviously as well, playing into the factor that they didn't play well last week, the Lions, they have to put in a good performance to outmaster and out-tactic a very physical Springbok team. So I reckon it'll be 28-26 to the Lions. I'm going optimistic. I hope so. I hope that's what I'm hoping for. But if I was being more realistic, it'd probably be something like 22-20 or something like 20-18. I don't think there'll be more than 2 or 3 points in it. I really don't. I think it'll be very close.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, to wrap it up with you, David. What's the score prediction going to be, and what's the score prediction?
Well, as I said, I think it'll one or two ways really. Either the Lions will run away with it, which we hope they do, or South Africa will take a stranglehold and they'll come away with the spoils. And I think, taking everything into context and perspective, head, heart. I think my head is saying South Africa, my heart's saying the Lions. However, I think head rules the heart, and I think South Africa will win the game, and they'll win it by 29-23.
Yeah, it's probably going to go right to the wire. And which
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, me too. It's not going to be a good household in terms of the nerves on Saturday. But yeah, let's just hope it comes home to the W and comes home the British and Irish Lions way. Thank you very much for watching this video. Big up to Dafydd James, big up to Club Talk TV for this preview. Had the big test on Saturday. Make sure to catch out my match reaction to the game after the game. Hopefully it's a W, but there'll plenty more content coming out on Steam Server Irish Rugby. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned to the channel, like and subscribe. The channel's growing really fast. Thank you very much for doing that. It really helps me a lot. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the